Shedeur Sanders was 102 for many people back in December, but it appears as this pre-season combine season has drifted on, Shedeur Sanders has started to fall down draft boards. He's got all the leadership, all the intangibles you need, highly accurate, but is he too much of a diva? Does he have the arm strength and the ceiling needed to push the ball downfield and be a fantasy relevant option? Okay size, 6'2", 215 pounds, a little bit older at 23 years after he had those years at Jackson State. Kenny, are you a believer that Shedeur Sanders could be high enough ceiling to warrant spending a high first-round pick in your Superflex leagues?
Probably not. No, I mean, I think I like him more than a lot of people, and I think the hate has gone too far on him this year. I mean, I think when you put on the tape, for a start, definitely like leader, clutch, tough guy as well. Like, I mean, that offensive line he was playing behind was poor, and he was asked to throw the ball down the field at times, and he took a licking, and you didn't hear him moan. He just dusted himself down, got back in, and did it again. I think he's better movement skills than at times he's advertised. I think he gets, as an athlete, I think he's getting graded on quite an unfair curve that obviously
he's not his
offspring
dad.
of like probably one of the 5 or 6 greatest athletes the NFL's ever seen. So I think if his surname wasn't Sanders, I think, he wouldn't get knocked as hard as it seems to be. Like, I think he's got a decent arm. He's not got an elite arm. He's not got one that's going to wow you, but I thought it was okay. I think there are some NFL throws that he will really struggle to make, though. Like, I think, deep comebacks and stuff like that. He's I don't think the whole field is open to him at times. So I think that's it. I think he does. One of my biggest questions for him is I think he does most things well. I don't know if there's anything he does great. I think he's sort of middle to sort of just over average for everything. But I don't think there was one slider that you turn right up, and that I like it when you're looking at QBs and they've got something that they can always fall back on. That if other things start going wrong, they can gun a ball in there, or they've got elite athleticism, or they can go and complete 6 passes in a row because the accuracy is, exceptional, that kind of thing. I don't know if he's got a trait like that. He is a polished, he's gone through, obviously, a high level of, he's basically had like almost like a basketball AAU type career, hasn't he, in college football. So he's very polished. And I thought he looked particularly good. I liked him against zone coverage. I thought he was good at working out what the defense was doing and picking up and the holes in it. My biggest question is his ceiling. I don't know how much. I mean, because he's had such, obviously, such good opportunities in terms of, you would think that he's had pretty elite level or elite level opportunities a lot of the way through. I don't know how much better he's going to be. For me, the hard thing is that, again, I think it comes back to what kind of team you've got and what you're kind of thinking. He struck me as a guy, he's not the same kind of player, but he struck me a bit like a Brock Purdy type player. That actually, I think if you could put him, certainly early Brock Purdy, or if you put him in a situation where nearly everything else was, above average to elite, and you were asking him to be a conductor of the offense and distributor, game manager, as I think is a term that carries a lot of weight with it these days, both negative and positive. But that kind of QB, I could see him being quite productive. I think if he was being asked to do a lot more than that, I think that would be a real problem. So I think if he does slide in the draft, but he ends up on a better team, I think that could be the best situation for him.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I think there's a lot of stuff there to really like. I love his anticipation. I think that's some of the best in this entire class. I think he's highly accurate. I think he clearly understands and diagnoses defense well. I, like you, have that question about can he hit that far side hash deep out. I think that's going to hang in the air too long and be a concern. So it does limit the field slightly. I think he's a decent athlete. Like, yes, okay, he's not, Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson as a rusher, but I think we're going to see some pocket mobility. I think he can get out in space and kind of contribute to the game there. Um, I I do think there is a slight Travis Hunter effect where he lent on Travis Hunter, and fair play, the guy's an absolute freak and an alien, but there was some throws that he shouldn't be put in there, and it's like, is that a good thing because he's trusting his elite wide receiver to go and get a ball, and 9 times out of 10 he would, or is that a bad thing because he's being propped up by that elite wide receiver? And I don't quite know where to go there. I think whilst I'm saying he's good at understanding defenses and that kind of thing, him throwing hot is a real issue. And I get that offensive line was abysmal and, it was a sieve at times, but he needs to understand when he's hot and just get rid of the ball quickly. I think at times he does try to almost create too much. And it's just a case of sometimes the check down's there, just take it, move on. Don't live to fight another day. Don't try and create something out of nothing. And that worries me. Again, I talked about it with Cam Ward. 20.7% pressure to sack ratio is crazy high for that is insane levels. I think for me, he's a perfect Chip Kelly quarterback. I know Nate Tice talks about this. He says that the ideal quarterback for a Chip Kelly offense is Rajon Rondo because he needs someone that is intelligent, highly anticipatory, can read a defense, and highly accurate. And to me, that's Shedeur Sanders. I think, if you put him in like the tour offense that they've got down in Miami, something like that, where you're not asking him to make, deep throws consistently. You're asking him to, if he's going deep, that's fine, but he's got to put the ball up early and let his receiver run underneath it. He's not having to laser the ball in. But we're going to live in a heavy RPO world. We're going to run lots of short intermediate areas, get the ball out quick. I think he could be phenomenal in that game. And I really think if you put him in good offensive line, some good kind of underneath weapons who can make plays after the catch, a good run game, I think he could be good for the NFL. The sad thing is that that's not high value. Those aren't high value touches for a quarterback, and for fantasy, I think it limits. I think his ceiling to me is kind of mid to late career Dak Prescott, where he's like a high-end QB2, low-end QB1 for fantasy, where it's like, if he's your QB1 on your Superflex roster, you're not competing. If he's your QB2, you're in an okay place. If he's your QB3, you're absolutely laughing. And I think that's his ceiling, which concerns me because, once we get outside the elite prospects, I'm always swinging for upside. And I just don't see it for Sanders. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to have 40 plus touchdowns a season. I don't think he's going to consistently pass over 4,000 yards. I don't think he's going to rush, 40 plus times a year. And so for fantasy, it's not that intriguing. So for me, unless I'm QB desperate, I'd rather take a swing at another position and leave Shedeur Sanders on the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up something interesting there, because I think obviously while in redraft fantasy, QB running has become obviously a bit of a cheat code, and I think you're seeing people, guys like Anthony Richardson getting drafted higher and higher. I think sometimes people slip into the uninformed, the non-subscribers to Fantasy Sanctuary, obviously. The uninformed sometimes, I think, overrate that in Dynasty. And the one thing he has going for him is he can pass the ball. He's not an exceptional thrower, but he can pass the ball, and that will get you time, over seasons. And I can see him. I love the comparison to that Rajon Rondo, that idea, that place that I had in my head, especially because I was thinking, if he does slide and he does fall to those early 20s, couldn't you see him being the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback in the Arthur Smith offense? Running that play action, good offensive line. I could see it. Okay, he's not going to, throw the ball down the field like Russell Wilson, but I'm not totally sure that is it. And I know that there's a lot of talk at the moment about Justin Fields being there, but I don't know. I just thought, you
I
want to
think
talk about
I could see it if we're going back to Tennessee Titans era Arthur Smith, where we're seeing lots of in-breaking routes and things like that. The problem I see is that George Pickens can't make an in-breaking route. Like, George Pickens is just an outside the numbers receiver we saw last year.
True.
And I think
But I don't know if he's long for that team. I think if
you need to
so
rebuild the receiving core if you were going to operate Shedeur Sanders in that offense. But I could see it.
Yeah, and that was the obvious place when you looked at it and you were looking at the QB needy teams and when he was starting to slide, because I do think if again, a bit like we've said with Cam Ward, but I think it's even more the case if he's being asked to come in and pick, if he does end up with someone like the Raiders where you're looking thinking, God, there's Brock Bowers and not a great deal else there. I don't think he's got that kind of upside. And I wholeheartedly agree with you that I think he is to me, he's like a QB2, like that high end QB2, low end QB1 on a bye, when there's a few bye weeks in kind of thing. And I think I could totally see, if he's your third quarterback, I could see it working for you. But I wouldn't be possibly willing to go any higher unless I really like his landing spot at the end of the first round in your fantasy draft, when you've got a pretty strong team and you're a contender and you're thinking, okay, I can maybe seal off that he's one of those, he'll be a solid QB3 that I know I can play when I need him. I wouldn't be willing to take him much higher than that, I don't think.
Yeah, it feels like he's going to get overdrafted by the team that's desperate for a quarterback, and there's no good options out there. But if you haven't subscribed, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button below. We are previewing every single fantasy relevant player that you need to know before those rookie drafts. Hit the subscribe. You will not regret it.